Hi, my name's Clare, and I wanted to share a few thoughts that I've had throughout my cancer journey on the power of language. Um, Something I talk about a lot on our yoga teacher trainings that I do. Language can change the experience that somebody has, um, and the outcome actually of an experience, whether it's negative or positive. But obviously, when it comes to cancer, it can be a potential case of life or death, whether you survive it or not, based on language, the language somebody uses when they speak to you, and then what you hold on to. And of course, we have the power to choose what we hold on to and what we don't. There have been numerous examples throughout my cancer journey where I believe or feel that language that has been shared with me has been very, very unhelpful. But I'm very grateful that I've been able to take a step back, observe it for what it was, and then see it for what it is, and then let it go, get it out of my system. And some of that springs to mind would be when I was deciding whether or not to carry on with my high dose chemo. I'd had 4 rounds out of 6, and I had intuitively felt 4 rounds was where I needed to be. I had had a complete radiological response by that time, so that gave me quite a lot of confidence. And I had a meeting with my oncologist, who's been really working with me in an integrated manner, and she's been fantastic. But I didn't see her, I saw somebody else, and I think she was a breast care nurse. And she was just spent, half an hour telling me all the reasons why I should carry on and have all 6 rounds of chemo, and actually made me feel to be a bad mother if I didn't. And one of the things she said during the conversation was, have you discussed this with your 13-year-old daughter? Have I discussed with my 13-year-old daughter whether she thinks I should take chemotherapy, which, in her mind is going to save my life? I mean, would I put that on my 13-year-old daughter? Really, that decision? I mean, guilt tripping or manipulation or, really, I had to really process that. And what I could see is that she told me repeatedly that she had had cancer herself, so she knew how I felt, which of course she didn't know how I felt. She assumed that the reason I wanted to stop early was because of my hair loss. I know how awful it is that you've lost your hair. And I ripped off my headdress and said, I don't care about my hair loss. I'm grateful for that. I obviously it was still a process I had to go through, but it's a practice non-attachment for me. I'm far more concerned about my inside, which is what I said to her, than my outsides. And she also assumed I wanted to stop early because of the awful side effects. But again, I hadn't been getting awful side effects. So that wasn't my reason for wanting to stop. I felt like I could have carried on physically. It was because I didn't want to take on board any more of the toxicity of the treatment than my body needed. And I'm very grateful I did take some of it. I knew it was helpful for me for the first 2 rounds. I wasn't sure for the 3rd or 4th round. And I didn't feel intuitively that I needed it for the 5th and 6th round. But I had already had a conversation with my brother, who was a biochemist, and I had tuned in. And I decided to have the 5th round really for my kids. I know that was before this conversation with the breast care nurse. And it's interesting because that on that 5th round, both of my veins burst on each side or popped while the treatment was being put in. And it was the treatment that I guess there was part of my intuition was saying, actually, I don't think I really needed it. But then the universe works in mysterious ways. If I had had my regular oncologist and she had told me about this drug I'm now on, which is a low-dose chemoimmunotherapy, I definitely would have stopped at 4 rounds. I know I would have done, because I would have known I could have switched to this low dose. And I do believe minimal high dose is where it's at. And then, I'm not lucky, but with my treatment type, even though it's aggressive, it also responds to the most amount of medication options. So having that knowledge, which my oncologist would have given me, I know she would have done, I would have definitely stopped at 4 rounds. So anyway, I did do the 5th round, and I stopped I didn't have the 6th round, but interestingly, I didn't have a complete pathological response, which is what I thought I would have done, given that I had had a complete radiological response. So maybe that was the universe, and I did need that 5th round. But anyway, the language there is what if I'd hold on to that projection, so my breast care nurse, because she had gone through the traditional medical route and done everything the way the medicals say you should, or they lay it out for each person, she then projected that onto me, and it was like, well, you're an absolute fool or an idiot if you don't do that. And I do understand she profoundly believes that that's what's best for me. But of course, what my oncologist is really good at is she lays out the facts, she gives me the studies, and then she says, let me know what you want to do. That is empowering somebody. That's letting them make their own minds up. It's giving them the full picture from their perspective, and then you make your own mind up. And I think that's great. I really respect my oncologist for that. She doesn't ever push me into anything. But I think the language that I've had from other people can be very disempowering. Another thing I overheard when I was having my chemotherapy was a guy who said about the side effect drugs, that they prescribe the same side effect drugs for everybody, which I haven't had. I've chosen not to have those myself, and if I'd needed them I would, but I never needed them, and I've been using alternative methods to mitigate side effects successfully. But there's a guy having his treatment. I overheard him say, is it okay if I wait and then decide if I need it? And the lady that responded rolled her eyes and went, oh, you're one of those, are you? And again, so there's this, conditioning that if you decide, that if you make your own mind up, you're one of those. So it's not something that's encouraged by some people. Of course, other people might encourage that. So there's a lot of stigmas attached, there's a lot of judgment. So, this idea of listening into your own true self and being in your power throughout cancer, it can make such a big difference to your journey and your experience of it. And so that's where I'm so pleased that I've had my experience, not only of going through my divorce and learning there how to deal with adversities on the path, but then obviously having a very regular yoga practice and already being very in tune with my body and my mind, and being able to step back and just see what's happening and see it with compassion. They're coming from their own trainings, and so they're sharing what they believe is right. Other projections that I've had, I was told I will be tired for 2 hours on my radiotherapy treatment. Actually, that was from the same breast care nurse. Not that I might feel tired, not that some people feel tired, but you will categorically be tired for 2 months after your radiotherapy. Well, I don't know whether I will or I won't. I'm manifesting that I'm not going to at all. I haven't had any side effects so far. I'm having my last round in a few hours' time, and it's just, for me, it's literally hasn't been, and it's just been part of my week. But everything else in my week's been normal and fine and wonderful, and I feel great. So let's see. I'll see how things unfold, but I'm not going to worry about whether or not I do. I'm just going to take one day and live it. And at the moment, every day's been great. So if I'd held on to that, I'm going to be tired for 2 months, and I could easily be tired for 2 months. I have cleared a bit of space in my weeks for this week and next week so that I can respect my body. I understand completely what it's going through. But yeah, the significance of not hanging on to words that some people might share, I think is really important in terms of you navigating your cancer journey. There are others, but they're not coming to my mind in this moment. So I think that's enough for one recording, and I will share more in others. And I wish you all balance, alignment, positivity, self-care, and the capacity to tune in to what is right for you in this moment in time. And that's the key. Sending love.